morning, guys. The name is Mark, and again, I'm going to talk about a few things here. And everything in life that is convoluted, okay, everything that's made to seem like it is hard is because it's deceit. And it's basically deception because under this deception, it keeps people confused, okay? And look at the terms con and fused. So you're fused with cons, okay? So basically, what happens is people make money off confusion. Like if you weren't confused and you knew how to do a lot of things, you wouldn't need other people to do them. And this is how people make money off you. They prey off the fact that your lack of knowledge and your confusion makes you go to them in order to have something or get something done. It's like I went to school and became an electrician and stuff like that. And basically, like, even one day I was having this conversation in school and I said to the teacher, I said, how come we have no free power? Oh, there's no such thing as that. And he wanted to shut me up as fast as humanly possible because we were in front of the rest of the class, right? There were probably 30 something students in that class. So effectively, like, we have free power. Everything that we have was meant to be free, and only by the hands of the greedy do they require a fee, okay? Like, God gave us water, and so we could make turbines and we could give everybody free power. I mean, once the transmission lines are ran and we have alternators and generators and all this stuff, and the water comes over and turns the turbine, and the turbine generates free electricity. It's this simple. So this nonsense that we have to pay for everything is just complete, sheer, utter bullshit, right? Now, by all this confusion, like for example, you're out in the real world and you're working these jobs and you're having problems with your employers, and you find out there's no recourse, there's no remedy. They keep you in a constant state of confusion, and this is how they make money and this is how they protect themselves, okay? And so basically, like if we had a resourced economy, like take your money and throw that out the window. Money is bullshit. Like I see so many people, they have made money their god. They're enamored by money, and I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. We live in a world where you need this fictitious piece of paper so that you can run around and pay for things. But the creator gave us dominion over things and never said that we own anything, okay? And so, being that as it may, being that we don't own anything, like we should have a resource based economy. Like, for example, chopping down trees for paper is chopping down God's creation. And the more we chop down God's creation, the more floods we're going to have. There's going to be less roots in the ground to bind the ground and keep it solid. And you're going to have sinkholes all over the place, and land is going to get washed away, and all kinds of other nonsense. And in a resource based economy, simply put, there's no shortage of anything, right? Like you need water, you go get water or we deliver it to you, literally, right? Like, for example, there's lots of places where, heaven forbid, you put a rain barrel in your backyard because then the government wants to tax you. I've known people in the past who've owned wells, and the government's saying, you can't use that well. You can't be drinking that well water. That's not safe for you. So we're going to put some plumbing in and charge you, and we're going to induce your water with fluoride and whatever else we want to induce it with. And it's basically nonsense, right? So you look around and we have everything we need. Like even people, like I see nowadays, they're running these electrically charged vehicles and stuff. Well, it takes more energy to process and remove this lithium out of the ground than what it is to simply run cars off water. Like Jack Nicholson back in the 70s had a video where he was talking about how his car was ran on water. So why are we using gasoline? Why are we extracting all these resources that we don't need, right? We don't need them, right? And water would be a clean fuel because it's going to evaporate and just simply go back into the atmosphere, and there's no pollutants, and there's none of this and none of that. And maybe there's some pitfalls to this, but I highly doubt it, right? So, in a simple nutshell, we don't need money. We don't need money at all. What we need is a resource based economy, and this resource based economy could help everybody. There would be no shortage of food, there would be no shortage of anything. Like, for example, like, you know, say for example, a family, a mother or a father is reduced to poverty, so they go out and steal a loaf of bread to feed their family. And then it'll turn out that the police will show up and they'll arrest this individual, and they'll say, oh, well, you're a thief and you were stealing, and now we have to label you as a thief. And therefore, in the future, anytime you go to apply for a job, you have to inform them that you have a criminal record. And are they going to want to hire you? And now everybody's treating you like a thief because you screwed up. So there's no compassion whatsoever in man's world, in man's law. They deal with the letter of law, nothing else. They don't deal with compassion or kindness or so. Back to the individual stealing the loaf of bread, we label him as a thief, but yet we have a double standard in society, because if you work for the government and you're a thief and you steal, you get a raise, you get a bonus, a be on us, right? And this something else people don't understand is the fact that, like, with all this money, okay, I'm going to lay it out to you very short and simple. Every time a child is born, it doesn't matter what country it's in, the country borrows money off the bank, okay? When they borrow this money, this is what helps fund the government, because the government is bankrupt. They literally have no money, people. These world governments don't even have a pot to piss in. The banks own it all. Read the Bank Act of Canada, skip the first X amount of pages, scroll right to the bottom, and you'll see that basically the Bank Act states that the banks own everything. Now, again, this is very sacrilegious because the Creator gave us dominion over things. The Creator never said we own things. So the minute somebody comes along and says, well, you can't come get water, you're traversing on my land and through my land to go get your water. Does this sound like a very loving society? A very loving society would be, I don't mind if you want to come skittle pit through my yard and go get your water. Why would I mind at all? Personally, I would want to see people have clean drinking water. Wouldn't this be a normal thing, right? So we live in a society where they make the lies like you need money in order to pay for water, which is a lie. So they convolute things. You're back to cons. Everything's a congregation, a conversation. Everything's a con. And weren't you told not to deal with cons? Doesn't that grow old? Aren't you tired of dealing with cons, right? They'll have you so confused. They'll tell you that up is down, down is up, sideways is up, and backwards is forwards. And again, look at the words: forward, backward, regard, all these words. Forward, just take the D out. Forward, right? Rearward, take the D out. Rear, war. You have a war rant, a rant for war, right? Everything is a war. Everything is a fight, and everything is a struggle, and everything that you do to climb to the top of the shit pile is a fight. And it was never meant to be this way. In a simple resourced economy, everybody can have what they want. And then people say, well, but if we don't have money, and who's going to fix our roads, and who's going to run pipe, and who's people? There will always be people. You would have a better society because there will always be people. Like, some people like to pave roads. They enjoy this stuff. Some people enjoy being a garbage collector. It's there's nothing wrong with this stuff. You do what you enjoy, and in a world, if we do what we enjoy, you're going to have a happier world. You look around and there's nothing but strife and sadness and death and killing and illness, and it wouldn't be like this. And everybody's, oh, but we need money. Like, who's going to fix our roads? The whole thing, people, is preposterous. you will have better artists, you will have better mothers, you will have better parents, better people, more kind people, stuff like this. And I think one of the things is too, like, then they'll go, well, some people will have more and some people will have less. It's all up to you. Even then, like if it were up to me, we could still have a financial system, but there wouldn't be an ounce of debt. Everybody in the free planet could have $2 million each, and they can spend their allotments how they would like. If they would like to make more money because they decide 2 million is not enough, they want a bigger home, well then let them go make some extra money. But there is no reason for all this nonsense, right? And like these are just like simple solutions. Now, will this happen in my lifetime? Probably not, right? The world powers that be in banks, you look at the word banking and you have two words, ban and king. So they are the kings and you have been banned. And these kings and queens, they drive around in these gold carriages and all this stuff, and it's all fraud. Why should they be running around in gold carriages to begin with and having jewels on their hats and stuff? All this shit is worthless. And then people go, well, we should be investing in gold and silver. Are you going to eat your gold and silver at the end of the day? So again, gold and silver, all it's basically good for is for making things like anything that's going to conduct electricity, because silver and gold and copper are known to be good electrical conductors. Okay, you follow me, people? Right? So this whole thing where anybody charges you for anything what God has given is simply fraud and deceit and a pile of lies. And we live in such a world of confusion that, like for example, like I'm not a flat earther. Don't call me anything, because whatever this is that's encapsulated in this body is whatever I am. But like, I remember watching Bugs Bunny when I was a kid, and I can't remember if I was maybe 6 years old or something like that. And I'm not a big TV watcher, but I was watching Bugs Bunny, and all of a sudden he tunnels down and he comes through China, and they show him upside down with a hat, a Chinese hat, right? Like the Chinese and the Vietnamese people would wear. And he's upside down, and then all of a sudden they spin him upright. And then they'll call this magical thing called gravity, right? So gravity makes everything that's upside down seem magically upright. Like ocean liners are upside down and all this stuff, and people are standing upside down, and yet the oxygen in the blood, it's not all flowing to their brain. It conveniently flows to their feet, and now they were upside down, and now they're magically upright. The whole thing is fraud, people. Okay. They will have you thinking, and I'm not a flat earther here. I'm none of this shit, but common sense dictates. I've heard some stupid shit in my time, but people standing upside down, planes are flying completely upside down, ocean liners are completely upside down, and there's a sea curve, so they say, but yet in normal terms they call it sea level. You see where I'm going with this, people? So there's so many lies and deceit and stuff, and these people will have you so confused that you won't even know who you are. And you look around and people don't know who they are. If I went up to the average individual and I said, hey, who are you? Then he ask me who I am. I'll tell you what I am. I'll tell you what I'm not. I'm not a name on a piece of paper. I'm How could I be a name on a piece of paper? Again, that's like expecting me to believe that I'm upside down in Australia and I think I'm standing upright. I have heard some crazy things, and they'll call this gravity, gravity, okay? So does this whole thing make sense to you, right? And the average individual, they've been lied to and programmed so hard that they'll believe that they're standing upside down, yet they think they're magically upside right. I'll tell you, people, when this happens and the lies and the deceits are is so big that you'll believe that you're upside down, but yet you're upside down. Your head is pointing down towards the concrete, and all of a sudden it's flipped up. And they'll say, "Oh, but the Earth spins." So the Earth is spinning. Let me tell you, people, if this rock was spinning, you'd be flying off into outer space. I mean, it's these are just simple observations. So back to Bugs Bunny, like I watched that when I was a kid, going, okay, he tunnels through down to China, he's facing downwards, and all of a sudden they spin him upright. Does that seem plausible to you? Back then, I had never even heard of a flat Earth. I had never heard of any of this shit. Not that I care. All this stuff is useless knowledge, and it will not change my life whatsoever. But every time I walked into a classroom and I would look at a globe, I would say, that's just horseshit, right? No, I never discussed this with anybody. It didn't matter. I didn't care. It's almost like the conversation when I said to the instructor, hey man, we have free energy. Why aren't we not utilizing this and harvesting this and giving it to everybody? Oh, there's no such thing. So again, these people, they're paid to lie. It's like these independent fact checkers on Facebook, right? So somebody who's not a doctor, somebody who is not a lab technician or anything like that, all of a sudden now is a fact checker. They've had not an ounce of experience in anything, but they're going to say that no, the earth is completely round and people are standing upside down and they don't even know it, and they think they're standing upside right. The whole thing is fraud, right? So you can see where I'm going with this. So I just wanted to share this with you. Back to the resource-based economy, the world provides for free. There is so much out there that can be utilized, and people don't have to starve, and we don't need wars. And again, you're back to conscripts, right? Why would somebody join up to fight a war? Because they're starving. That's why most people back in World War One and World War Two went to war. That's why Germany went to war. They were forced into starvation by a pile of Nazis during World War One, right? And even then, Germans weren't Nazis. They labeled themselves as Nazis because Hitler was an Ashkenazi. You follow me, people? So these are all lies. And then the Nazis, the real Nazis, Ashkenazis, had wound up killing normal, regular Jews who are Torah worshipping Jews, and they weren't Nazis. And then they'll say, well, don't you dare talk about us. That's anti Semitic, right? So here's a group of people you have been so lied to that everything is just a bold-faced lie. Why would a group of individuals who aren't Nazis run around and call themselves Ashkenazis? Right? You see where I'm going with this, people? Nazi is the short form of Ashkena, and Ashkena is the short form to Nazi. If you say Ashkenazi, that's the full word, okay? So again, wars are fought by these people, and what people don't understand is it's all by deception. And if you want to read a real interesting tiny little book, it's called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And in Sun Tzu, you make your enemies believe that you are their friends, and you also, if you want to take out a nation, guns and tanks don't work as well as they used to because people are waking up to the fact that killing their neighbors is bad, right? And so you're back to guns and tanks not working. So now what they'll do is they'll invade your society with opium, opiates, heroin, cocaine, all this stuff. They will pretend like they're your friends. There will be drugs running rampant on the market. And there's another drug out there. I can't remember the name right now. It's killing people left, right, and center. And why? Because it's an unhappy society, because there is nothing for these people to look forward to. And again, everything is a war: forward, backward, rearward, best regards. Why are you on guard? You see where I'm going with this, people? Everything is a war-like stratocracy, and we don't need it. There's been so many lies. And even back to the Germans, why would they call themselves Nazis? They were forced into poverty during World War One, and the real Nazis that are the powers that be here had implemented World War One. They had implemented World War Two by starving out Germany and stuff. And a guy came along and called himself a Nazi like Hitler because he was an Ashkenazi. And then the rest of the Germanic people just thought, oh, we're Nazis now, right? And we belong to the Nazi regime and war party. And so you can see where all this is just preposterous. Even the guy who invented the Enigma machine to my knowledge, he was gay. And what did they do? They threw him in jail, and I think they even killed him and castrated the guy because at that time he was gay. So here's a guy who helped to stop World War One by using this deciphering Enigma code machine, and they killed him. So no good deed goes unpunished in man's world, and this is why we have to get back to God's world. Even real Jews out there who are not Talmudist Ashkenazi worshiping Jews, and even these Ashkenaz, if they go, well, we're not Nazis, well, then don't call yourself an Ashkenazi, right? If you're not a Nazi, do not call yourself a Nazi, and don't call yourself Ashkena for short, being that you're not using the Nazi part at the end of your sentence, right? So all these people were hoodwinked into World War II, and millions have died. And then they talk about World War II like, oh, well, all these Jews were exterminated. Of course they were, because the Nazis, the Ashkenazis, took them out, right? And then they will say, well, don't you talk bad about us. To label us is to negate us, and which is all a joke because how many slavery is legal? Slavery runs rampant. They call it debt slaves nowadays, right? Tax slaves, debt slaves, right? Even back in the day, killing natives in Canada and the United States, there would be a reward for the amount of head count for heads that you exterminated, right? So again, killing native North American Native Indians was legal, but yet helping these natives escape or the slaves escape was illegal. Does this sound like a good society that we live in? Dropping bombs is legal, but yet for you to smoke a joint on a beach in California or LA was illegal, and they would throw you in jail for a lifetime. So again, you're back to slavery, and prisons make money off owning slaves. It's no different than when you go to school and they say, Mark here, John here, Bill here. What are they doing? They're doing a head count. And in fact, what do they take a shot of when they put you on a license or any form of identification is your head. And they will call it a head shot, right? The only difference is in this headshot, they didn't take a gun to your head and shoot you in the face, right? So all this nonsense, like, don't get me wrong. Yes, I have no disrespect for military people and stuff like that. You know, some of my family was in the Navy, and one guy was in World War II, and he was in a trench, and he was my grandmother's ex-husband, and he never talked about the war. And the one day he did, he was talking about how his friend had his face blown off in a trench, and he was wearing his friend's face. Okay. Sorry, this is a sad story. It's hard for me to tell here. Anyhow, okay, does this sound like the society we need? No, we don't. Okay, people? So I just want to share this. We simply need a resource-based economy, and even back to money. As far as people go, well, who's going to pay this debt? You tell these people, if you want your debt money back, we'll print all this worthless paper, we'll grow some pot, we'll print it on hemp, and we'll give you all this worthless paper, and now we're going to go to our system. You guys are done. You want to be greedy, right? Everybody can, they can agree to that, right? Agreed, right? You have a fact that and greed, so everybody will, they can, they can all agree on this, right? It's agreed, right? So we have to get out of this, and like all you have to do is look at their words, and you know that life is a lie. You take the P out of pill, and what do you have? Ill. You look at message, right? You have mess and age of the mess, right? You look at these politicians, they're called demonstrators, demons, traitors, okay? People, these are not my words, and I don't want to hear, well, that's not the meaning of it. You look up a dictionary, and especially dictionaries from the 1960s and like, say, before the 1960s, like early 1900s up to about early 1970, and you even look up job, and it'll say public mismanagement of funds for private dishonesty and gain. I have videos of this. I even show it in dictionaries, and then we live in such a society where people have been programmed that they don't even want to believe it. Now they have cognitive dissonance, and they will believe that they're standing upside down, but yet they're magically upside right. I tell you, people, I did a few hits of acid when I was a kid, and never did I come to the conclusion that people are standing upside down. and think they're standing upside right. I mean, no amount of drugs in the world could ever make me think otherwise, you know? I even remember when I was a kid, I did acid, and actually, I didn't lose my mind. It just brought me in touch with life, and I had realized that life was a complete lie. I had realized that life was a complete lie when I was 4 years old. You know, I was watching these people walk around. They were all waking up around 7, 8 in the morning. They were all going to work. I was sitting on the deck listening to the birds chirp. And the minute these people started coming out of their homes and they were groggy and they were tired and they were going to work and they were, they had better things to do. Like they probably wanted to stay home and watch their children grow up and stuff like that. And instead, they were forced to go make this money, which is just a fiction on a piece of paper, to live. And they're so busy trying to make a living that we forgot that we are living. We are a living being, okay, people? So all this bullshit and all this nonsense, we don't need it. And people will say, but I'm just one guy. How can I change things up? Well, you know what? You don't like Walmart, you stop shopping there. You know, this fact that like people that they'll put Trump and Trudeau and all these crooks and criminals on TV and they'll glorify them and they'll jet around in their private jets and stuff when they're thieves. If you went out and stole that loaf of bread to feed your family, they call you a criminal. But yet this guy's a criminal. This sociopath, psychopath, like say Trump or Trudeau are criminals, they get raises. You know, even back to these independent fact checkers on Facebook, they're independent, so that tells you that they are dependent upon the paycheck to espouse lies, because otherwise, you know, everything that everybody does for money, they're just whores. If I turn around and tell you that the truth is a lie because I'm getting paid to do this, this makes me an absolute slut. It makes me a goddamn fucking whore. You follow me, people? And we live in a world full of whores. They'll call them whorehouses, warehouses, right? And they house up whores. So anybody, we live in a world where how do you expect to find an ounce of truth in this world when people are paid to lie to you? Even police, you know, they'll say, well, there's good police in the department. Okay, well, if there's good police in the department, how come they're not arresting real criminals and real crooks, like, say, the bankers, the world bankers? How come they're not arresting Justin Trudeau, or how come they're not arresting Trump? I'll tell you why, because they get paid not to arrest these people, okay? And then, for example, you look in the news and you'll see all these videos with Trump, and people will say, well, we have to pay attention to what this guy is doing. He's a monster, and if we don't pay attention, well, the more people pay attention to something, the more this is going to promote and elevate this guy into a seat of power. If nobody ever talked about Trump on the news and TV and stuff, nobody would even know who he was, and would people even go to a voting poll to vote for him? And again, even voting, you think voting for another criminal is going to make things better, right? If voting changed anything, people, they would make it illegal. And look at legal, a girl, right? And what was one of the oldest forms of business? BU and sin, right? Business, right? And it was prostitution. And we're all running around like a pile of prostitutes going, gimme, 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 I need more money, I need more money. I'll even lie to my fellow man, and I won't go arrest a guy like Trump because my job pays me not to do this. And now I'm a newscaster, so I'm just an actor. I'm a care actor, a char actor, right? On the news, and I'll promote a guy like Trump, and then everybody will go, oh, Trump is the man, Trump is the man. I remember talking to a guy a few years back, and he's like, oh, Trump is the man. He's a successful businessman, and he's going to change everything. No, he's not. He didn't change a goddamn thing, right? All he did was loot and steal and grift and graft and whatever these terms are. I couldn't care less. And this is what Trump did. And you even tell people, you shower them with proof and facts, and you say, you know, man, he filed bankruptcy more than 6 times. Oh, he never did that. It's like, why don't you look it up? Like, everything is right there. But again, you're back to cognitive dissonance. And we live in a society where people like to actually hate things, right? They become what they hate. Like, You look at, say, the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, years ago. You always had the one character where everybody needed to hate him because he was the bad guy. And you look at the Art of War, and they will give you what you hate, right? And they know that you'll become what you hate. It's that simple. There was a parable of a guy named Jesus, and I dated this woman, and her mother said to me, she says, "Well, I see what you and your friends are doing." And I'm like, "My friends? What friends? Who you talking about here?" And then she's like, "Oh, well, your friends." And I said, like, so and so and so and so and so and so. And she's like, "Yeah." And I said, "And what's up with that?" She said, "Well, I see what you guys are doing, but one guy can't make a change." And I looked at her and I says, "You go to church?" She starts puffing up. Eh? "Oh, yeah, yeah." Now she's getting all proudful, full of pride, right? And I says, "And you go to church to worship a guy named Jesus?" "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I love Jesus." I said, "So let me get this straight." I says, "You go to church to worship a guy who came out and said there's a better way to do things. We could share and share alike and be a resourced economy, and don't try to change the world, but yet you go to church to worship a guy who tried to change the world but was one man." Now, I'm not going to get into whether Christ was here or not. I couldn't give a shit. It doesn't matter. It's like flat earth. Am I a flat earther? No. Am I a Jesus worshiper? No. I couldn't give a shit. It's the doctrine, it's the principle of lift up your hearts and may Christ be in you and also in you. It's a principle, okay, people? So this nonsense of people running around and killing each other because my religion is right and your religion is wrong and all this crap, really, you look at a lot of religions, unless they're Talmud of Satan worshippers, right? They're Nazis, right? And they don't espouse this kind of information. Even in the Old Testament, owning slaves was legal. Owning slaves was called common law, and then these people are running around going, "Well, I claim common law, so you're saying that it's okay to be a slave and it's okay for slave owners to own you as a slave master?" You see where I'm going with this, people? The whole thing is just absolutely friggin' preposterous, right? So, anyhow, I'm babbling about multiple things here, but they all tie into one. And in a simple nutshell, all we need is a resourced economy, right? You could go back to the greenbacks where there's not an ounce of debt owing. Everybody could have a certain allotment, and what you choose to do with your allotment is fine. But we live in a society where everything's based off Sun Tzu, where these people are coming at you, and the greatest way to take out a nation is to pretend that you're their friends and pretend that you're their savior and pretend that you love them and look at me and I'm awesome and I'm going to rescue you. These people are pretending to be God, and again, you're back to demonstrators, demonstrators. They're demons and they're traitors, okay? You follow me, people? So we don't need this. All we simply need is a resource-based economy. Everybody, there's enough, and we can grow more than enough food to feed the world. You drive across Canada or the U.S., the United States of America, and there's so much land between state to state and all this stuff that is unused and vacant. And why? Because mankind charges you money to live there. And anything that mankind convolutes and charges you for is simply